G'day, citizens. Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. I'm gearing up for a new term. And yeah.
You're leaving me tomorrow. You're making me stream on my own, you son of a bitch. But
yeah. Well, tomorrow is it is the day before the Australia Day weekend, and every year on the Saturday I do a pilgrimage to Canberra for CanCon. And
yeah, CanCon's a convention all about cans. He is that way inclined.
Yeah,
no, it's about Canberra.
CanCon is in Australia's capital, Canberra. So Canberra Convention, CanCon, and it is a wargaming, probably the biggest wargaming convention in Australia.
Yeah, there's a
certainly
lot
on
of
the eastern board.
A lot of wargamers supposedly in Canberra. But no, actually, people's filling in for you. So what we're doing today, though, is we're going to do a supplemental from what we did earlier this week, because there's obviously been a little bit more news come out in the MISC Fortune. As you can see from the picture behind me, we've actually got a in-game model now. And I also thought we'd go over the In Case You Missed It sale as well. So this is just like a nice little supplemental, just a freebie from me and Algared this week. All right, so if we kick it off over to the web browser, we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with this video. So this is taken by Hater115 of the Pipeline Discord, or Leaks Discord. As you can see from it, like I'm going to go through and show you all the things that have changed. The really obvious things is obviously the saddlebags have gone and stuff like that. But it is a really good walk around. You can clearly tell from this that it's an onboarding task. I don't know. What's your first kind of thoughts, Algared, on taking the Prospector and turning it into a salvage vessel?
Well, it's one of those things that makes sense. If you look at the lore, the Prospector was one of these, or the hull of the Prospector was used as this kind of versatile frame that MISC could leverage different ideas on.
Just a sec, Algared. I also just want to point out that it says 13 SCU. So it looks like the storage is going to be 13. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Algared.
Yeah. So it makes sense to have, you've got the basic frame, but then you've got the tool end aspects are different. So salvage, mining, yeah. So to me it makes sense. It's not a biggie. Quite nice.
All right, well, I'll go through some of the stuff. So I did some comparison shots. I ended up sending these to Grim, by the way, because me and him were having a good talk about it. So I went in and I tried to match the video with a Prospector. So you can see things here like the front VTOL has changed. The lights have changed. And obviously the head on the vehicle has changed. I don't know what to call that. So it very much seems reminiscent of what happened with the Raven variants along those lines. The other one here is clearly the landing gears had to be moved because they have a lot more internals. Those internals are pretty much identical in space, but once you go through that door, there is like a whole extra area on this ship. And as you probably saw in the video, as Algared was talking there, it's got this windowed area, almost like you have in a whole sea, like the tunnel area, and that'll allow you to see the salvage on the outside of the vehicle as it collects. I still think that this is land-based, Algared, purely because of the elevator at the back here, and I think that that elevator really, like, if you were going to make it a spaced faring salvager, it would more likely have like a door or a compartment that opens, not a lift. The fact that it's lift tells me it's ground focused, and again, you can kind of see where the cargo goes here on the back part, but it's got this front part where you can step that allows you to go forward into the ship still. So if you can fit 12 to 13 SCU here on the back, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's the other thing we can kind of confirm is that it's not two people. So those blue silhouette images where they had multiple people or combat people or medical people or workers or stuff like that, that's thrown a real work in all that stuff that we've seen up to this point, because that's kind of disproven the number of people as the number of people that go on the ship.
I think we've really just got to take those as being all of those people, whether they're combat, medical, whether it's 2, 3, 1.
They're just
You've just got to take them as being, well, not only background filler, but they're showing scale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true.
And I think that's the key purpose of them. We've got to just
Hmm. So yeah, that may have some more
Assume that everything else
ramifications
isn't relevant. Yeah.
yeah, more ramifications down the line. Now there's some other stuff in this video where he just walks around flicking switches and stuff like that. There's nothing terribly interesting, but if you do want to see it yourself, this entire video is, of course, as I said, on the SC Leaks or Pipeline Discord. It's got new component areas, working lights, and stuff like that. It really is a lot like a Prospector, just a couple of different changes and some little bit of lighting differences and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
some of that you will see reflected on the Prospector, much like you saw reflected on the Terrapin when the medical variant got done as well. The last thing I want to go over go ahead.
As you, I think, very heavily hinted at, if it wasn't clearly said, we will see work or polish done on the Prospector to bring it up to the same standard as this.
We're already seeing it. When I went over it, you were noticing things had changed inside as well as outside. I think the only other thing that I didn't notice is that a lot of the buttons don't work yet. So they've done pieces, but not all of it. So yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to go over that's important, this actually talks to the release date of this thing, is some of the skins. So they've got some copper one, a blue one. This is called, you can see the names up here in my browser if you look. So you've got like Fortune, green, copper and stuff. Now the real one I want to show you is this one, which is the Fortuna Luna. Now that is the Chinese New Year skin. Now Chinese New Year globally starts on the 29th, which is literally like a week away. So if this is coming with a Luna skin, I would assume that this is coming into the game really, really soon. And it's the first thing I've seen that has actually points anywhere to the date of this thing. And I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Would you assume there being a Luna skin, it's coming with Chinese New Year?
I would expect that to be the case. Because it just doesn't make sense otherwise. Hey, we've got a new skin for you, but there's no ship.
And I'd also assume, based on the fact that it's the same chassis, that that skin would also therefore be coming for the Prospector as well.
I would hope that would be the case, because it's very, very similar in size and shape, and so yeah, I'd hope any skins for this would work on the Prospector and vice versa.
Yeah. So let us know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Is it something that speaks to you? I'm kind of pretty happy with how it turned out as an onboarding task, but I hope we get some more, how do I put this, non-variant, aka more flushed out, filled out ships. I don't mind it so much at the low end, but you know, like say they do one below the Reclaimer and above the Vulture, I would like that to be a bit more bespoke,
different.
So yeah. But I think in this case, do you think this will be received well?
I think the lift at the back really does speak to this being a ship that's more focused for planetary salvage, or moon-based salvage.
It gives it a way to differentiate it from the Vulture, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the fact that to get the salvage into the back, it does not look like you open those windows. It looks like you've got to get out of a ship and detach and load them. So,
and again, because of the elevator, it implies you've got to land. If you're landing, it means you're already near a planet, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it just speaks that
this is going to be all of those things. So
operating around planets where the Vulture looks like it's more space-based.
And I think part of the reason for that is, as we've talked about in the past, is the fact that I think that this is really looking at being the counter to the build. So the build is building things, and this is removing the damage direct.
And we pointed out things like the Reclaimer can come down to planet if you need something bigger and stuff like that. I think the other thing is it's got a size 2 salvage head on it, where the Vulture's got 2 size 1s, so it does differentiate it there. But again, you get this thing in Ship Viewer and look at the next to the Vulture. It actually ironically makes the Vulture the medium. The Vulture does fall into medium by 2 meters, so this is dropping to the small, obviously, so this is below the Vulture. Looking at pricing, I think it's got to be I think my maximum price would have to be 165, but I would hope that it's lower than that, being lower down the totem pole. But by the same token, because it's had more work than the Prospector, I also expect it to be higher than the Prospector for some reason, but I would almost in a way hope that it's lower. I know that sounds a weird thing to say, but $155 to $175, that's only $20 between a small and a medium. And when you're looking at that, like, this thing is going to have to do something to encourage that price point. And if it's not focusing on that new thing of ground salvage, I just think it's going to get swallowed up by people going, no, I'll just keep in Vulture.
Yeah.
So
No, I think you're right. And I think in terms of price, I could see them, CIG, keeping it the price of a Prospector just to stop that. Oh, I've got a Prospector, I'll just CC across to it.
yeah, or even going cheaper for the same reason, so you can't just go across. Yeah, absolutely agree with that statement. And same thing for the Vulture. That's why it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the In Case You Missed It sale. In case you weren't here for the all of last year sale. Yeah, there's, it goes through everything, all the stuff you saw last year, but only the new stuff. Now, this thing sold an absolute shitlick metric ton of ALSs, and it's the only thing me and Algared really both brought brand new, didn't we, Algared? We moved some stuff around last year, but we didn't buy anything else new. This is the only kind of new thing that we brought outright.
I didn't buy that with cash. I had credits, and I used credits to get that. Yeah. So
you got LTI, did you? Oh no, you didn't get LTI. You would have got
no.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't get LTI in it.
I brought it with LTI. I just brought it outright because I didn't have anything to move around.
But it was the only thing. It was the only thing I purchased last year.
The other thing I'll point out too is the insurances have dropped. They're not like 10-year like they were last year at AIE or whatever. They're down to 6 months. So, before where you got a Polaris with 10 years insurance, now it's only got 6 months insurance. So it's dropped quite a bit. But
that IAE that 10 years usually linked to the IAE or Invictus.
Yeah.
Sales wherever usually the sales throughout the rest of the year tend to have smaller insurance from memory.
Yeah. So this is also one you and I didn't really get to look at because we were away at CitizenCon as well. I talked about it briefly on a live stream with John. I did get a chance to drive it around and stuff like that. But again, I think when the FM comes around, you and I will go back to look at this one as well. That's why we haven't gone back and done a buyer's guide on this one. I think you would agree with me. The FM is where it's going to be at, not the SM.
Yeah. But I think our viewpoint was the FM is the build module, whereas this is the one that's bringing the extra supplies for the build module to be using.
And it kind of kills the mole in all the way because it even uses the same animation frames as the mole. It's just a bigger mole, and in a lot of ways it makes so this might be carrying more load and the mule's built for speed, but again I would just take this because it carries so much more. 4 versus 2 is it's literally double for the same size type of thing. Got a little wider wheel base though.
Yeah, one of the things that I do like about it is, to me, it just has a feel of the airport, airfield vehicles. All the movement vehicles, and I could almost see a fuel version of this. With a fuel tank on just doing the refueling the vehicles.
I would totally agree and see that as a thing in the future, especially on
that would be
further out outposts, where they need a refueler rather than like especially if you've got an outside landing pad type thing. That would work really well.
And it's a Argo, which I think would fit perfectly within their wheelhouse.
Now I think we can smash these three together. The Hornets. Oh, actually, while I'm on this too, Super Hornet was found in the files as well. So I would expect that coming at Invictus at the absolute latest, is what I would say. So the skins in the current patch for the Super Hornet, and they are the skins that match the ones that came with all these Hornets. So, and a couple of new ones as well. So I think we can safely say that's to be, you and I saw that coming a mile away, as did everyone else watching. But just thought I'd share that as well. Your thoughts on the new Hornets? Are they worth buying or pass for you? What's your thoughts, Algared?
Well, if you're into fighters, I think that you buy a Hornet Mark II rather than a Hornet Mark I.
Agreed.
So
really good middle of the road.
Mark I.
The Hornet is a really good middle of the road fighter. Like it's a really good generalist all around.
And it's only going to get better because the Hornets do have armor. They're more, they're not the light fighters, so they're a step up. They've got more armor than a Gladius and etc. So they will have more staying power. They'll be able to stay in the fight longer than others, and they've got
probably add to what you're saying there and actually recommend the Super Hornet over the F7A personally. I think the Super Hornet will be where it's at. The ability to go one person or two person, extremely valuable and versatile. And I think that'll just take it to a different level because you and a friend can quickly go somewhere that you need to go, or you can use it in combat. It It gives that extra
Yep.
flexibility. And I think that's will be the variant. If I was going to choose a Hornet, that's the one I'd choose.
Yeah, and the fact that it's two-person does give you that dual gameplay.
Mm.
As we've said in the past, flying the Hurricane, two people working together, it just really is a good feel. So I could see the Super Hornet Mark II being a good one for that.
Yeah. All right, so we've got the Guardians. I think this is a ship much like the Ares that'll come around again in time. I just think right now it landed really badly because it's just we are not in that new meta yet. We're still in this transition period between the old meta and the new meta, and it's still a dogfighting game. It's not all ship sizes combat yet. And I think once you have that, like this thing is clearly tailored at Connies and Corsairs and MSRs, and we are just not in that area yet. We're a year or two away, and it just landed at the wrong time. But I think this will come back and have a heyday. I just don't know when it is. Looks wise, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, look. Looks wise, it is a great looking ship. It's got those heavy TIE fighter type vibes. I think it even picks them up the TIE fighter vibe more than the Fury does. Not the Fury, the smaller version is the Fury, isn't it?
It is the Fury.
Yeah.
All right. I just like to let you doubt yourself for a couple of minutes, and then it sinks in, and then I correct you if you're wrong. But you were all good.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like that. But I think you're right. I think these ships, because they're long range, they haven't come into their own. We're still in that short to medium range fighter where it's basically all carrier based or planet based stuff.
Yeah, that's another reason.
Whereas anything that
is the long range, as you mentioned, but I think it's specifically at the moment this is designed for bigger ships. But you're right; it's a two-part problem, which makes it seem even more horrendous. Yeah,
it's the same reason why the Vanguard will come into their own again when they're the long range ships. At the moment they're because everything's short range, they don't really have a place. They don't have a purpose. Whereas
that doesn't suffer it as much because it has a size 5 and some other guns. This is just size 5s, so that's why it suffers from that problem. But this was not the most hated ship. I'd almost say this was the most hated ship of last year, sadly, as a starter ship. I really grown to enjoy this ship in Pyro. It is clearly was made for Pyro, but Pyro didn't land when it landed, and I think that's what's caused a lot of the problems. You get this thing in game now, and you warp across, like, you just warp so much further than the other starters. And once we add variants that'll probably come in towards the end of this year, I think this will, I don't want to say a new lease on life, but I think that it'll have aged and matured a little bit like cheese or fine wine a lot more, and people will look back on this a lot more fondly than it was originally released. I know there's a lot of people that can't get past the look of it. I understand that. But it actually also makes sense if you look at what they're doing with Crusader. It's a really weird thing, almost like the higher up in quality the ship goes, or the more you pay, the more curves they give you. It's really bizarre, but it's true. And you can look at the Spirit and see the blockiness in the Spirit that it shares with this.
Yeah. The other thing is the fact that this has such long range. It really does feel like it's a baby MSR in that sense. The MSR was the other Crusader ship that had was touted as being long range, having quantum fuel for ages.
Yeah.
And
well, it's
so
their two things, isn't it? They're
leveraging.
They're very engine based, so they go really fast and they go really far. And I think it's giving up cargo space. It's not like 12 cargo like on a 315p or something like that. It's only 8. But that's right on par with the Avenger. But what's it getting over the Avenger? Well, it can go further than an Avenger, but it's giving up guns to do that. It's only getting one big size 4. And yes, you got a size 4 on Avenger. I get that. But again, realistically kind of speaking, the only ship that really does that in Crusader's lineup is the Ares. It is the outlier. And it does look a little bit like an Ares. But again, the other complaint people had was it not symmetrical? But again, the ship would have to be bigger to compensate for that, and that I just wouldn't look the same. And I don't have a problem with it. Like, I think you've got to make some allowances, can be different enough in every ship. Do you realistically want your... Because let's give a counterpoint, right? The Paladin and the Valkyrie, they look so similar. I don't like that. I don't like that they're all just this almost like the same chassis, but they scale it and that's it. I like that there's a little bit of differential.
Well, what I do like about the same chassis is where they've got a ship like the Prospector and the Fortune, where even in lore they've got this chassis and they're leveraging that to go to experiment and go different avenues. But when you've got a chassis and then you make a bigger ship that's exactly the same, you kind of, you're right. It just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel right. But yeah.
All right.
Next
to is the Ironclad, so we can go over both of these. 450, so they've gone up in price, or this one went up in price, but they that was available for like a day cheaper. But anyway, I don't know. I see this Algared one here as in the Assault. I see this as a step off from the Liberator, going to all vehicles instead of a shipping ship. And I see this one as essentially Caterpillar 2.0. I think a lot of people will give up the versatility of the Caterpillar to essentially double down on that cargo. And I think this ship has a really bright future in piracy gameplay, like as a dump bucket, and pulling things off ships and just raiding other ships. It screams what the Caterpillar was originally designed for.
Well, pulling things off ships, once you've softed a ship, you open up and you swallow it and you fly away.
Yeah.
It really is the James Bond Moonraker. That's the vibe I get from it, you know.
Yeah. So if this one's the space-based ship, this one is the ground-based ship. That's kind of how I see them as well. This one's favoring the ground combat, and this is kind of like the space piracy cargo logistics. And I think this one's probably the bit more versatile of the two. I don't know how you feel on that, Algared. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of niche cargo ships. I know, not niche cargo, niche combat ships. They tend to be just like, there'll be something I'll earn in game for myself personally.
Yeah. The thing that does set the Ironclad Assault apart is it's got that small area for cargo, but it's got that manufacturing or fabrication part in it for doing vehicles. That comes at a cost of, even though it's still got the area that opens, it comes at a cost of this space that you can actually put stuff in.
Weirdly as well, it kind of gives it, so by losing the versatility of the Liberator, you get a more focused combat and repair facility in that as well. I think that balances out in a weird way.
Yeah, and I can see, you know, the fact that they are working on, we know they're working on the, sorry, I said they're working on the Pioneer, so they're working on this, but I think that this really does, the fact they've got this and they're working on it because it's in the curtain, I think it's a very big hello that they're also going to do work, or they are working on the Kraken and things like the cargo hold, the repair module in that, you know, the fabrication part. They are things that I can see are going to be in the Kraken as well.
Absolutely agree with that. With how much the model inside Cousin Crows has been updated over the years, they've clearly been working on that. I have to assume they've been doing some kind of white boxing or grey boxing for the insides of the Kraken. If you've got the outside hold done, why wouldn't you? You're working on this. Why wouldn't you double down and extend that out, or at least, as I said, start to move in that area of starting to work on the Kraken as well, especially with so much of the outside being done. I'd be really surprised if that's not secretly being working on in the background. Even if it comes out 18 months after this is released, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. But I can see, I could see this being, or the Kraken being something that's in Squadron 42.
Episode 2. Yes.
Just because we know that we start off with fighting the bad guy, you know, the criminals, but then when the Vandal turn up,
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Band together.
Yeah. All that too.
That's right.
Yeah. What they say about aliens and religion, like aliens will come down and religion will disappear. Something, the words to that effect. I've heard that a few times, but you get the point, right? As you said, humans band together. Right, MPUV tractor, another variant of the MPU. I don't think we have to say much. That said, I think this is probably one of the coolest variants of this thing. Would you agree with that one? Probably not worth a purchase in any game, but it is very cool nonetheless. All
For
right.
me, this is the one that goes back to the original design of the MPUV,
True.
with its with its claw at the front. So this is the closest to that. I just I love the MPUV. Um, it- I think the tractor really is what the MPUV should be.
But would you say it's an earning
across the
game
board.
at that price?
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. Unless those small ships, $40 things have LTI, earning game, because the only reason to buy them new is because they're something you're going to use an upgrade to move to a different ship.
Okay, the Paladin gone up from its war run price by $20. So everything I said on that, I think it's going to come to pass. So exactly the same price as the Redeemer, kind of stopping people from exiting the Redeemer and going over to the Paladin. But clearly, they made the Redeemer a certain way, and then they wanted to turn it back to how it was, and then went, wait, if we do that, there's now going to be a gap. I think when they realized that, that's where this thing's come from, and that's why this is a concept and it's not made. Because they've just, as they were fixing the Redeemer, they went, hey, we could have a whole second gunship doing this.
Yeah, we're gonna have another ship to fill the void, and this does the job, and it's.
I think that's my only disappointment about it is I would have liked it to be a bit more bespoke. The fact that it's like a fat Valkyrie kind of annoys me a little bit, but also ironically, it's got a lot more work done on it. And it's cheaper than a Valkyrie. I think we can finally confirm the Valkyrie is overpriced. But that's just my 2 cents. Would you agree with that statement that the Valkyrie is overpriced based on this? Or
well, we've always said ships are overpriced.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. What's more appealing to you as well, the Redeemer, with its kind of insertion-based dropship mentality, or this, which is really, like, and this is what the military guys are telling me, is this is just a fighter. This thing's going to literally fight you.
Yeah, this one, from what I gather, it would drop the troops off, and it would hang around.
No troops on this one.
In the fight.
No troops on this one. So this one's going to guide maybe other dropships in, or whether they're an escort thing, or they're guiding down. But this is a fighter. This is a 4-person gunship.
This is the thing that's This is the thing that's going in and blasting up things, softening up the target.
I think it's showing the Redeemer is not a dropship, not a gunship. It's more of a stealth insertion ship. It is not.
Yeah, it
didn't meet what it was meant to. Through the next rank ship, it was meant to be a gunship, but I don't think they made a gunship, and that's on the community that made it. It's not on CIG, because they didn't get what they asked for, essentially.
Yeah, look, it's one of the things I've always thought about Redeemer. It doesn't. I always said it didn't match up to the design specs that CIG had put for it. I understand why certain things were in, because back in the day, every ship had to have a bed, every ship had to have X, Y, and so they tried to put those things in because that was the community focus on what every ship had. But I actually think the Redeemer is really the UEE's version of the Prowler in terms of being a stealth dropship.
Yeah. All right. What's the next one? Or it might be at the end. No, we've got the Polaris. So 975. Do you know what I realized? I got a bunch of CCUs in buyback that go from the Hammerhead to the Polaris that I'd totally forgotten about. I know you've got some too, because I remember talking about them years ago when we brought them. So yeah, we might have to give them away or something like that. But anyway.
Yeah. I think mine is still in my actual hangar, not in buyback.
Yeah. But it's a fantastic ship. This ship essentially has showed me what this game can be. And I think a lot of people, content creators and just citizens in general, it has really opened their eyes to what this end-ish kind of game could really be.
Yeah. I'd probably go one step further and say this isn't really a Corvette. It's a capital ship, and Corvettes tend to be under capital ships, so it's...
You're thinking traditionally, and that this argument's been had back and forth, but it's the smallest capital ship we've got in the game. Smallest combat capital. Yeah, smallest combat capital is what I'd call it.
And we know that CIG don't follow their own sizing rules.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep.
But it is a great ship.
Yep.
It is a great ship, and you can see as you go through it, the engineering gameplay that'll be there. Like you walk through a ship, you've got half a dozen power distribution nodes. You've got fuse boxes all over the place.
Yeah.
So you can see where that gameplay is going to be going.
Really, it jumped in price too, like way more than me and Algared kind of expected. We were expecting, what was it, $875 to $925, and it went $50 more than again. But I think that was because of the hype they saw coming, so they just went, yeah, we'll up it another $50. Why not?
Yeah, and that puts it around the same price as a 890, which I think it really is the same as in terms of size and class. And
needs a little bit more extra work on it too on the insides, but it will get there, and they have said that they are going to do some of that stuff. Right, the Pulse and the Pulse LX. This was a really popular bike for the simplest reason is it's the smallest one. So it fits in more things. If you don't have one and you want one, I don't think it's a purchasable thing because really soon this thing will be available in game. If it's not this patch, it'll be the one after. And you can just, like, again, being so cheap and the smallest, it's probably going to be the cheapest thing, one of the cheapest things in the game to buy. I can't kind of like, especially the LX, which is the racing one. I think the combat one's the more interesting thing because you can get into areas and you can literally take these down into bunkers and use them that way. So yeah, your thoughts, Algared?
A bit of heavy firepower when you go into the bunkers. But no, I agree. The only reason you'd have bought this was for the upgrade token. It's not as nice as they are. They're not worth the US dollars or the money you pay for it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
the Retaliator. This was really interesting because of the rework. Obviously, we're starting to see what gold pass is going to have effect on ships. I'm kind of happy with how it turned out, but I just found it really weird how they kind of did the whole module thing. They never ever really sold it as a bundle with modules. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity on their part, where they've now gone back to just selling this. And I think that's kind of weird. I would have liked to see them sell the modules and stuff.
The bundles as well.
Yeah,
the modules as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting that just above the name there, it's referred to as a highly versatile gunship as opposed to a torpedo bomber.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's the typo on CIG's part, but it's an interesting.
I don't think you can get behind the gunship part. Yes, it's got lots of turrets, but they just don't work at the size they're on. Like, it was the biggest complaint you and I had about the ship, and it's the only thing they didn't fix was the sheer number of turrets. They want this thing to be a high crew count, and I don't quite understand why, because it's going to make it exceptionally boring to be on. Maybe there's something they know that we don't, and I'm hoping, I'm like this hoping. But for right now, it is very cheap, though, as ships of that size go. And being a combat ship, I'm actually actively surprised of the price. And again, you could always buy the base variant and just earn the modules in game. So you're going to really just have a turreted gunship until you can buy the modules. But even just getting a little like the couple of cargo modules is going to allow you to do some smuggling and stuff, because people are not going to want to pick a fight with you when you're in a stealth ship and the risk of being shot.
The fact that at range, you can't necessarily tell what's on the ship. You just know it's a Retaliator, so you're not going to want to risk that you're pulling on a ship that's suddenly going to be lighting you up with torpedoes or mass guns. So
Right, we've got the two Sabre Raven variants now, so the Firebird and the Peregrine. This being like a missile variant, and this being a racer. I cannot recommend either of these at all. Yes, they are onboarding tasks, but I just think they're going to be something in game that people earn. They were way too expensive for what they were, and I think they just really missed the mark, and they wasted the opportunity, especially on the Firebird. That could have really been more towards what the right people wanted in QED, and not just another missile variant. Like, that's not what people are asking for. And I don't know anyone, I've not seen a Peregrine in game other than the one that I was flying that CIJ gave me to give away. Have you seen a Firebird or Peregrine lately?
No. But I agree. Like, yes, people were after a Sabre Raven, and I like the fact that they tried to keep the name, Firebird, Peregrine, they're using
bird references.
But great onboarding tasks. The people working on them did a great job. But
yeah, visually they're amazing. They are. They're really
Yeah.
fantastic. But the function just drops off the face of the earth. It's shockingly bad. So yeah. No offense to people that like racing. I know you love racing, and I think the thing with this is that it really can boost really, really well. But where it landed at the time of the year it landed in September, in that lull period, you do not want to have a lull period with a low, unwell received ship, and that's where this landed like a thud. Like it was dead on arrival. It just bang.
I would have looked at putting a ship like this out, a racing ship. I'd have put it out with something like
one of the events,
well,
like
actually,
Daymar Rally or something like that. Yeah.
Well, Daymar Rally. I was going to say Daymar Rally, but Daymar Rally's land vehicles, so
Crux Cup as well.
But I'd have put a Crux Cup or the Hurston set or the Stanton 7 or
right time, right place type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd have paired it up with one of those events. But
Starlancer Max and Starlancer Tech. Now, Algared and I have finally got around to reviewing this thing. It's in the bank. It'll be out in the next couple of weeks, so you can see what we think on it. But long story short, I can't get behind this ship because I think there's two other ships that do its job better, being the Raelian and the Hull B. If you want to see details on that, you'll have to watch the video. But long story short, I can't get behind this. Your thoughts on the Max, Algared?
There does seem to be a lot of wasted space on this ship, and I think it comes back to the fact that the Max is not what the base chassis of this ship is for. The base chassis is specifically for the build.
Yeah, Starlancer build.
And that's where the ship makes it comes into its own.
That said, though, if you love the ship, if you love any of these ships, feel free to completely disagree with me, Algared, and buy whatever you want. This is just our generalized advice across the board. So this is not a hard, concrete sell. You do you. Now, this is our opinion.
In terms of the naming of this ship, the fact that it's a Max, it's not a Max. If anything, it's a Dure.
Yeah.
Which
or even just
but long distance,
or even just the Starlancer. It's not a Max. It just doesn't maximize the cargo over the other variants. It don't make sense. This is marketing naming and not like a designer naming, and it just
not in game naming.
It's designed to put the dollar or the price up, and it just doesn't work. Right. I think the only other thing that I want to mention on the TAC, very similar to the Max, is again in its own lore, the Starlancer breaks its lore again. This should have been a Mirai ship, because it's an attack-based craft, and Mirai do all the combat and racing for MISC. So this should have been a Mirai joint venture at the very least.
I could have seen it being a MISC Mirai collaboration,
That's what I was looking for. Collaboration,
just like MISC and Anvil did with the Starfarer G.
Yeah,
but
it's $330 though. If you wanted an attack ship, it's a Redeemer that's long range like this, or the Paladin. I just cannot get behind this ship at that price point. And again, saying that it goes even further and it's got the further ranges and all that than any other ship, that is so niche it's not funny, because you would plan for that with other combat ships.
I've got to go back to the Max, because I have worked out why it is a Max. Is the Starlancer Max wasted space, because this ship has double beds for all the crew.
Maximum waste of time.
For the crew.
Maximum waste of money. The jokes write themselves. Like the maximum marketing overblow.
It's a ship that I'd have preferred the smaller beds and more storage space for my personal belongings or extra cargo space to give it more of that Max naming. But it's...
Hey, but if you love it, you love it.
Sorry to go back.
No, that's all good.
Yep, indeed.
Is there anything you want to add about the TAC? I don't think there's anything we really else need to add. We'll go on.
No.
All right. Run to the Terrapin.
Apart from attack having the small Mirror Fury bay.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem big enough. I think it needs to have at least two. I would have really liked a way to attach them to the outside to make, because a hanger just for one Fury is really stupid. If you could attach like 4 or 5 of them, then we'd be onto a winner, because then you could bring a whole fleet of Furies with you. but it doesn't do that.
And we know that from talking to Ben and John that was one of the things they really wanted to go the idea of the Furies kind of being like the turrets and
Well,
being able to pop out. And
some other dev shared that idea with them, and they looked at making it work, but there just wasn't enough space, so just turrets. But yeah. All right.
So they really did like that idea.
Yeah. All right. Medical Terrapin. Again, at its price point, this just didn't land for me. I would, if it had a medical drone on it, I would have happily paid what it was asking. But for literally, was it $35 more? You get to the Apollo, and the Apollo has. It's got 4 size 2 beds, and this has 1, right? And then you can also mix and match and change the beds around, so you can have, there's 2 rooms.
Yep.
It's got way more flexibility. Yeah. All this has got going for it is that really heavy armor combat utility, which no other medical ship has. So again, it's a niche of a niche. So it's a medical ship that's into a niche on its own. So it will have a place. But for me, it's an earning game. Also being a small, where you've technically got a medium in the Cutlass, and the Cutlass is cheaper. Like just little weird things like that. This ship just needed to go cheaper for what it's offering.
And yet, at least one of the things I do like about this is it does actually fill in one of the aspects of lore. So in lore, the Terrapin was used as both a rescue ship, a drop ship by the Special Forces, and also in its usual role. So
fingers crossed.
Having this out is nice, but
fingers crossed, Algared, though, we get another variant. I'd really like to see that military transport type of variant that's in lore as well, because I think that would be awesome for this.
And that military transport is supposed to be very cramped, very crowded, but it's one the military guys are supposed to love because it can get them in quick. It can get them in safe. It can get them in stealthily, and it's just a ship
it was another onboarding task too. That one you can tell. Yep. So yeah, right. Medical Ursa Medivac. It's just another Ursa, but it does medical. It does allow you to have some medical facilities on ships that don't, but the Pisces did the same thing, and it's exactly the same price as the Pisces. So for its cost, I find it a really hard pill to swallow. Again, being a vehicle, it's cheaper. So for me, I can't recommend it. For me, it's an earning game. Or get something else like the Pisces, and even then, the Pisces starts to fall into the same type of thing because of its price.
Yeah.
Your thoughts? Same, I'm assuming?
No, it's very, very similar. The only nice thing about it is where it fits onto most ships. But you wouldn't really want it on a Carrack because Carrack's got a medical bay. You wouldn't want it on an 890 jump because it's got a medical bay. You wouldn't want it on a Polaris because it's got a medical bay. So the only ship that you'd be putting this on is something like a Carrack or a
MSR Corsair.
MSR Corsair, Connie.
Yeah, the large ships, not the bigger ones. Yeah. Right. Get on. I think we're getting really close to the end now. So we've got the Zeus variants. Yep, we are on the last 2. So the 2 Zeuses that released, we've obviously got 2 more to come in the ST and the Marky Mark. I think out of these 2 variants right now, the CL is the best. But next to things like the Spirit, and even the Freelancer Max, I just cannot recommend this thing. It has it has got a lot better at loading now that, like, I flew it the other night. They have fixed the tractor beam. It is a lot easier to load, but try and load 32 SU cargo containers in this thing in that really narrow hole is exceptionally difficult. It will obviously get better with time, but right now I just can't. Like, I find this ship way too pokey. But again, you might like that. I don't. But you may like it.
Well, we know that Ben loved the pokiness. Like, one of the things they tried to go for with the Zeus was the fact that, old ship, so it's kind of cramped and crowded. And Ben fought to not have them widen areas out. But he liked that crowded, crunched, squeezed through areas. And if he could have, he'd have had it even more so. But yeah, it's just one of those ships that. It's a ship I like. I like the feel. I like the look.
Yeah.
But
it's $25 over the max, and with the max can take a fully sized rover. and this can't because the way it's made. Like I would.
Yeah.
You are yes, you are losing the tractor beam, but you can just buy a tractor beam, or you can, get an Atlas or something like that. And again, these are going to be so cheap in game. It kind of negates the whole issue. And you are a little bit more like when you can move your tractor beam around, it makes it a little bit more versatile. Yeah.
It's $15 less than a Connie Taurus, which I think is a much better ship for hauling cargo from the outer sideline.
I have to double check, but I think the Taurus has gone up in price. I'll have to double check that. Hold on. The old price.
It's still 190, but
I could be wrong. Let me just double check. Double checking.
No, it's a good thing to do.
The awkward silence. Yeah, $200. It's gone up. It's gone up. Yep, it's gone up by $10.
$25 now.
So, yeah. But still, I totally agree with you. You go up a whole size class, you get heaps more. Actually, you don't get heaps more cargo. You get 100 and what is it?
190, wasn't it?
Oh, you do get more cargo. So it goes from 128 to 168. So you get 40 more
168.
Cargo. So
and you've also got that
additional crew member
at the back.
Smuggling area at the back.
You've got,
so yeah.
So and you've got the tractor beams that work.
Yeah. So it's in the kind of right price area, but like the Taurus is on an absolute win right now. It would have to be one of the best cargo loading ships in the game. Like, so quick, it works in space, and it works. That's the other advantage of having a tractor beam on your ship. It is really good for piracy. So again, a freelancer wouldn't be as good as piracy as this would be. But again, if you want a ship like this that's got a tractor beam on it, you can't go past the Spirit. It's faster. It's not as combat focused, but you can get your cargo to where it needs to go quicker because the engines, and it goes further in distance as well. Right, last one. The kind of the this is the DUR of the Zeus series. Again, until we get the scanning in, this thing's really not going to take off. Gonna be honest with you, I almost wish they left this one out because the scanning wasn't in. Like, it really doesn't have its gameplay. But again, it will come around again. Unlike the DUR that's built for durability and distance, this thing's a lot more survivable. So it's survivable exploring. So like I'm not saying it will go into the Coronas of Suns or anything like that, but that's the type of thing it's built out. It's got a higher shield class of the other Zeuses. It's clearly designed for survivable exploring, which is a different class again. Probably also going to make it better in combat than the other variants, except the Marky Mark. Yeah.
And yet, when you look at the naming of this, it's a bit like this is not an ES. ES is the Essential. So the Aurora Essential was the lowest base stripped back variant of the Auroras. This is not a stripped back variant.
What would you have called it, Algared? Just so curiosity.
I'm
looking at the Aquila and trying to pull the Aquila out of it, but I can't. Yep. Something like that, the Zeus Q AQ or something like that, is because there is no Explorer moniker, is there not?
No, you've got the Essential, you've got the Marquee.
They could have just gone with EX. That would have worked. EX, EX. We'll have to wait and see. But again, I'm with Algared. I agree with you. It's not an Essentials. That again, they're trying to sell this as the base variant of the Zeus, and as Algared and I explained in our video that we did on the entire medium series, there is no real base variant. There is no generalistic, like how you've got a Freelancer and a Freelancer Max. They both do cargo, but they just do it in different sizes. There's no base variant of this. So this is the closest thing they have to an ES, as Algared said, Essentials, but it's still an Explorer. It's not cargo centric.
So I'd have liked them to use a different moniker than ES. Bit like with the Max, the Starlancer Max. It's not a Max. Stick with your naming systems that you've developed for the brand, and make it easier for your backers to actually know exactly where the ship's sitting in the lineup. But
so everything we've gone over from today, from the MISC Fortune and all the last chance to buy sale, was it? Or in case you missed a sale, what would you like to hear from people in the comments below?
What ships, if any, did you pick up in the sale, and why? And are we drinking too much of a Kool-Aid?
I think for me,
rockets.
yeah, I think those of you that watch this channel already know enough about what we're going to say about the ships, but if you're new, let me know about that and your thoughts on what we've said. But also the MISC Fortune. Are you kind of happy with where it's landed? Does it differentiate itself enough from the Vulture for itself to exist? I think it's got to be something to do with the land-based salvage, whether that be vehicles or buildings. And if it is, then awesome. But if it is really just a direct competitor to the Vulture, I think the Vulture's going to win. If that's the case.
Yeah.
But we'll have to kind of wait and see. But yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys think about that one.
100% agree with that. I think if it's a direct competitor to Vulture, the Vulture, I think, seems to beat it hands down. But if it's doing that, what we think, being more a land-based salvage vessel, which you go to the outpost at the moment. There's so much litter around.
Yeah.
This thing could make a mint.
Yeah. They definitely need to get some AI in there cleaning them up and stuff, because they like me and Al got to be in game, and we just can't be around space stations to record videos because they just lag like crazy because there's so much extra junk and entity count around it.
Abandoned
ridiculous.
ships. And, yeah.
All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Look at everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Really appreciate your patronage there. All right, with that then, he's been Old Man Hurston Algared.
And he's been Execute. Doing it every time.
He's drunk. All right, see you, citizens.
Yeah.